Are you violating the rights of those you care for? No, I'm not talking about blatant infringement here, because sometimes carers do this inadvertently as they try to protect someone they perceive as frail or vulnerable, or just because they're under the pump trying to get a task completed. Not sure? Well, let's take a deeper dive into this topic. Hi, I'm Carrie from Culturally Directed Care Solutions, where we give you the knowledge and tools to provide quality care with confidence. If you work in or are interested in understanding the aged care sector better, then consider subscribing so that you can stay up to date with the latest in aged care reforms and practices. And don't we know, there are many more of those reforms and changes on the horizon. But back to those rights. One of the things we need to be mindful of when working with aged care clients or residents is to make sure that we're not overstepping the mark and disregarding someone's rights. After all, exercising our basic human rights is important to us, and the need to exercise those rights doesn't lessen as we get older. But it can get harder for older people to realise their rights because sometimes the people around them, often unconsciously, infringe on those rights. Now, the barriers to a person exercising their rights occurs both in residential and community care. Seniors often become more dependent on others and can end up losing some or all of their personal autonomy. Now, this threatens dignity and choice, and it can make them more susceptible to neglect, to abuse, and to a violation of their rights. So, if we want to avoid this happening, then we need to know and understand what the legislated rights of a person receiving aged care services in Australia are. Now, there are actually 14 rights outlined in the Charter of Aged Care Rights. Let's take a look at these and see how they might be expressed. The first right an older person has is to have access to safe and high quality care and services. Now, while each person's concept of what constitutes high quality can be different, we can probably all recognise what safe care is. Safe care is delivered by staff who understand the person's needs, who are trained, and who are equipped to carry out a service safely. It also includes making sure that the person has the right equipment in place if they need those. Things like grab rails in the bathroom or having a correctly sized shower chair. And it's all about organisations having infection controls in place, ensuring that staff are using personal protective equipment and making sure that they're aware of and are following protocols such as staying away from work if there's a possibility of bringing an infectious disease into the workplace. Yes, thank you, COVID-19. Well, it's also relevant for any time, someone that, if anyone's ill or infectious. Now, when it comes to high quality care, well, as we said, that's up to the individual to define, and organisations that strive to meet the person's expectations. And this can be really as simple as asking a person who's been approved to receive domestic assistance what having my house cleaned means to them. The second right is to be treated with dignity and respect. Now, this right is obviously closely linked to Standard 1 of the Aged Care Standards, which is consumer dignity and choice. All of us want to be recognised as an individual and to be treated with respect. We can support dignity in care by giving people opportunities to participate in the decision-making process and make their own choices. This could be just simple choices such as what to wear, what activity they want to participate in. But it can also respect things like personal space and belongings, as well as the choices that they've made, even where we might not agree with them. Another way of supporting dignity and showing respect is when providing personal care. You know, we can be sensitive to the feelings of the person and work towards putting them at ease as much as possible when helping them with personal care tasks. We should also remember to use a person's preferred title and name, treating them as a person with likes, dislikes, interests, a history, someone that holds intrinsic value, not simply another old person. And respect also means listening to what the person has to say, acknowledging their concerns, and speaking civilly and politely to them. The third right is to have my identity, culture, and diversity valued and supported. Now, each of us holds a perception of ourselves. This is our identity. Our cultural identity is shaped by the people we grew up with and where we grew up. It's also shaped by our ethnicity, religion, social class, and the shared experiences of our generation. And as people age, it's important that caregivers are sensitive to and understand that identity that the person holds and respect their lifestyle choices. For example, a male client from a remote Aboriginal community might have a preference for a male care worker from his family group to provide his personal care. And a Muslim or Jewish person might have specific dietary requirements that need to be met. Whereas a person who identifies from the LGBTIQ community shouldn't have to hide their sexual identity or relationships just because they are now living in residential care. Becoming frail, unable to stand up to others, being pushed around is something that a lot of people fear as they get older. And the fourth right of older people receiving aged care help is to live without abuse and neglect. The feeling of being safe is really central to a person's health and well-being. And when people feel secure, they're able to relax and enjoy life more fully. People should be able to live without the worry of other people, including family, abusing or neglecting them simply because they are too frail to defend themselves. And it's really important for care staff to be aware of the signs of abuse and neglect and to support clients or residents to access support where concerns are raised. Now, the fifth right is to be informed about care and services in a way that the person can understand. Now, for me, there is nothing worse than being given a heap of paperwork that has lots of fine print and then be expected to understand and apply something. My brain just does not work that way. I would much rather sit down with someone and talk it through, or be shown how to do something. And I'm pretty sure I'm not alone in this. Actually, developing plain English resources is one of the main activities that we here at CDCS do, because we've found that there's little sense in sending out a text-based document to a person who has minimal or no literacy, which is often why we work with organisations to create colourful pictorial-based client handbooks, and why we spend time helping their staff to learn how to deliver relevant messages in an appropriate way to clients. Actually, if you're looking for some easy ways to get the message out about the aged care standards or COVID-19, we've been working with the Aged Care Quality and Safety Commission on developing some colourful storyboards that you can find on their website. And I'll put a link to the description box below to those. They can help you meet right number 5. Right number 6 is the right to access all the information that you hold on that person, including information about their rights, care and services. Yep, that's right. anything you write or information you keep on a person is available to them or to their authorised representative. And that includes things like their care plan, how funds have been used, client progress notes. And you should always be asking yourself, do your practices reflect a professional approach to documentation? I mean, would you feel comfortable if the client or one of their family members asked to read them? If you're not sure, we actually have a free resource on writing progress notes in our resource hub, and I'll add a link to that in this description box below as well. Right number 7 is to have control over and make choices about their care as well as their personal and social life, including where choices involve personal risk. I think the perceived loss of control over choice is one of the major deterrents to people entering residential care. I mean, they want to retain the ability to make those small daily choices, such as what time they get up in the morning, whether they want to take a shower or not, and who they're going to see that day, as well as what they want to eat for lunch. I mean, when you think about it, they're making those simple daily choices for most of their lives, and they don't want to lose that right just because they're older and perhaps a bit frailer. I mean, if they want to have a glass of wine with dinner, stay up late reading past midnight, or dance in the rain, that's their choice. And while we may need to counsel against certain activities that can lead to adverse outcomes, we do need to be mindful of supporting well thought out choices. That leads us into right number 8, which is to have control over and make decisions about the personal aspects of their daily life, their financial affairs and their possessions. We have to remember that seniors have often been managing their finances and possessions for the majority of their life. And just because an elder is frail in body doesn't mean their mind is not sharp. They're often well aware of their finances and are able to continue to manage these appropriately. Although sometimes they might need assistance with new financial practices. And personally, I think it's often more appropriate to help an older person to understand and learn how to use something like internet banking than to institute financial management services if the problem is simply that getting to the bank is now more difficult and they've never used internet banking before. Old dogs can learn new tricks. That takes us to right number 9, the right to my independence. I mean, so much is encapsulated in this one simple statement. As a support organisation, we need to always remember that we are there to support, not take over or manage every aspect of a person's life, even if they're living in a residential facility. I mean, we should be encouraging the continuation of support networks that people already have in place, support links that help them to maintain control and independence. Helping a person to exercise their independence is also important, and that links back to right number 2 and Aged Care Standard 1, providing opportunities for choice and respecting those choices and decisions. When we look at right number 10, to be listened to and understood, we need to recognise that this is not just about using interpreters, although that is important if they're needed. It's also about taking the time to really hear what the person is talking about and what message they are trying to convey. And this becomes even more important for people who are living with degenerative health conditions that can impact on their vocal abilities, such as people with Alzheimer's disease or Parkinson's. We, as people working in the industry, need to take the time to listen and respond appropriately. And for those who can't or find it difficult to speak up for themselves, we have right number 11, which is to have a person of their choice, including an aged care advocate, support them or speak up on their behalf. And it's not just those older people who find it difficult to make themselves clearly understood. It can also be people who perhaps feel awkward about speaking up for themselves. You know, the aged care sector can be difficult to navigate, and even when people have a reasonable grasp of the programs, they can still feel uncomfortable about asking for things. And that's where using a third party who can weigh in on the conversation on behalf of the person can be helpful. So as service providers, we need to understand and acknowledge the position of an advocate in upholding someone's rights. Now, we're nearly there, only 3 more rights to look at. If you're getting value out of this video, we'd love to know, and you can do that by clicking on the like button, which is a thumbs up, or leaving a comment below, or do both. Right number 12 is the ability to make a complaint, to know that they will be free from reprisal from raising the complaint, which is why some people won't make a complaint, and then to have that complaint dealt with fairly and promptly. Now, the complaints process is one of the cornerstones of what makes a good aged care system. It's through the complaints or feedback that get raised that help us to improve the care and support we provide. People want to know, though, that they're listened to and that their complaint is being taken seriously, that it's not just brushed under the carpet, so to speak, and that management will respond to issues in a timely manner according to the severity of that complaint. I mean, we want people to feel like they are a partner in making the care industry better, and that they can escalate any concerns they have freely and with confidence, knowing that things will be better for them and for others as a result of them speaking out. Now, I'm pretty sure we all like to protect our privacy. None of us enjoy it when our privacy is violated. That's right number 13, the right to personal privacy and to have personal information protected. I mean, here in Australia, we have very strong privacy laws that uphold our personal right to privacy. But as people age and experience increasing frailty, they can become more vulnerable to having their privacy abused. And think about it, just the simple act of gathering both statistical and background information on a person to develop a well thought out and tailored care plans means that we're gathering some very sensitive information on that person. So it's important that we secure all personal information about our clients or our residents safely. We need to make sure our computer systems are password protected, that written information is correctly stored, that we have processes in place that limit the chance that information falls into the wrong hands. And we also need to make sure that staff understand and respect confidentiality of client information. We want people to feel confident that the personal information we hold on them is secure and that only those who require the information have access to it. Lastly, we want people to exercise their rights. And that's right number 14, to exercise their rights without it adversely affecting the way they are treated. I think that one's pretty self-explanatory. But we have to remember that to exercise your rights, you need to know them first. So it's really important that staff working in the aged care industry continue to remind clients and residents of their rights. If the organisation consistently upholds the rights of consumers, if they remind them of them regularly, if they respond appropriately and in a timely manner, then clients are going to have more confidence that they will be supported to exercise and stand up for their rights, especially whenever they feel a right has been violated. If you want access to some great resources that support consumer understanding of the new aged care rights, the Charter, there's a handbook on the Aged Care Quality and Safety Commission's website that you can download or order. I'll also link to that below. So hopefully you have a good understanding of the Charter of Aged Care Rights, and you can keep this concept in mind when you're out providing support. Next time I'm going to take a look at the responsibilities of people accessing aged care assistance. And while you wait for that, check out some of our other videos that are on this site. And if you have anything to add to the conversation around the aged care rights, or you want to give us some feedback on this video, then please add it into the comments section below. As always, I appreciate you for stopping by. I hope you have a great day and an even better week. Keep caring, and I'll see you in the next video.